Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, powered by Braden. This is your front row seat to the stories of local leaders, both nonprofit and for-profit, who are shaping our community. Every episode brings you leadership insights, lessons from challenges, and practical strategies you can use today. And yes, we'll keep it real and have some fun along the way. If you're ready to elevate your leadership, hit subscribe and follow us on LinkedIn for updates and behind-the-scenes content. Now, let's dive in. Hey everybody, Jason Lohm here with another episode of Elevate powered by Braden. I'm excited for this one. So Greg and I have known each other for quite some time, and I've gotten a chance to share about kids and family and business and just background and all those kind of things. I know the story is going to be great, but welcome to the show, Greg.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
So maybe just a quick bit about who you are and where you are at right now, and then we'll get to that part of the story a little later.
Greg Looney. I'm, born and raised here in Indiana, specifically on the south side of Indianapolis is where I was born and lived up until my adult life when I moved north to Fishers.
Gotcha.
And went to Roncalli High School, graduated there, went to Purdue for construction management degree. And
so let's slow that down, please. So Southside boy goes to Roncalli. What does high school look like for you? Are you in sports? Are you studying? Are you in the band? What are you doing there?
So I grew up playing all the sports, as a lot of young males do, and was involved in all of those. Really never had the passion though to continue on to continue to do the sports in high school. I did join the track team for a couple years, but mostly was focusing on work and friendships and all that. So started my career working at 15 at a Subway sandwich shop.
That's where I was going to go first. So started focusing on work.
Okay.
So Subway's where you get started. You're a sandwich artist. That's what they call price a bit. So you're a sandwich artist, and going to high school, earning money.
Yes.
Right. So that first couple of paychecks, what were you buying? What were you doing back in those days?
I think it was like anything else, is you're probably spending most of your food on most of your money on food and going to the movies and hanging out with friends and doing all that. So probably not the wisest, things to spend my money on, but taught a good work ethic of earning money and just getting to the point where, hopefully getting a car a year later and having expenses for that. And,
so you were 15.
Yeah.
Right. Started there. So not driving yet.
Yes.
And so if we're talking about high school, getting a car when you're 60, what was your first car?
My first car was a 1994 Pontiac Grand Am.
Okay, it was 2-door or 4-door?
2-door.
Okay.
At 5 speeds, so I had to learn how to drive a manual transmission car, which is still...
You're one of the rare folks.
Right, exactly. And it's like riding a bike. You never forget it.
Yeah.
So that I had that until I blew a hole in the transmission and figure it out and get another set of wheels to get me around. So,
okay. All right. So Grand Am 2-door.
Yep.
Stick shift. So you were cool.
Yeah, exactly. I thought I was, right? Yeah. I don't know that I would label me as cool, but.
Gotcha. All right. So working at Subway, did you work through Subway kind of all the way through high school?
Yeah. I ended up transitioning from Subway to was working at a clothing store in the mall in the wintertime, and then in the summertime when weather was nice, I was doing landscaping and grass cutting on a crew. I get for a friend's dad, and that was a little bit of the best of both worlds, right? So I was not out in the elements during the nasty months, but taught me a good hard work ethic, and knew that I didn't want to go into the clothing store.
I didn't want to go to the clothing business.
Yes.
Yeah, nice on a day like today.
Exactly.
The last week it's been negative here in Indianapolis.
So absolutely.
So as you're going through high school, you're working, doing clothing, start to work outside a little bit, and you're going to go to do what's next, right? So is college next for you? And where do you go? And what were you going to plan to study?
So I was always bound and determined to go to study architecture. And so I thought early on in my high school career, there's a drafting program at Roncalli that is taught by an architect, and he had been doing it for 40 plus years. And so I always had that desire. I liked the designing of buildings and the technical side of that. what that led me to is I did a internship, I should say, or a little immersion course for 2 weeks in between my junior year of high school and senior year of high school.
Oh, really?
Up at Ball State in their College of Architecture and Planning, and they host students there that are interested in the architecture field, but to get them there to show them what it's like for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
I love that program. I still was, dead set that like I'm going to architecture school. Had applied there. I had gotten accepted. And then some friends started talking about construction management at Purdue. And I was like, that's interesting and that's intriguing. I never even considered that. And really didn't even know it was an optional, degree to get.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I pivoted and went and visited Purdue, and I said, that's what I'm doing. That was more my speed.
No count.
The architecture school, and nothing against it, but it's very heavy on the art side and creative side, or I was more like, I want to call straight lines. I want to draw, floor plans and design these buildings, but you got to, learn to, crawl before you walk before you run.
Yeah.
And so they work you through more of the art side of it than to get the creativity flowing versus the, drawing straight lines of the building.
Okay.
So, and one was a 4+2 at the time. So 4 years of undergrad, 2 years of grad school. And then that was the architecture. And then on the construction side, construction was a 4-year degree. And so I wanted to take my shortest route. Yeah, I loved college, but it was time to go after 4.
Okay. All right. So when you were doing intentionally done architect, was that Ball State?
Yeah, Ball State. Sorry.
Okay. So that could have been at Ball State, but you decided to go to Purdue.
Yes.
So you head up to Purdue. During those 4 years, a lot of folks I've talked to, they've done some internships, they've done some different things. So talk to me a little bit about that program at Purdue, and how did you progress amongst your 4 years?
Yeah, so they do a really good job. It's one of the top programs in the nation. And the one thing that they require is 800 hours of on-the-job internship throughout your 4 years there.
Okay.
It's easily achievable in 2 summers, but they give you the 4 years to get that in. They host a job fair that has 100+ companies that come just for the construction program. So it is a incredible job fair. And at that point, I had met a company that's based here in Fishers as a freshman, really didn't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
And especially construction, because at that point, you're not even in any construction classes. It's all your prerequisites, your maths, your all it's another eating offshore. And so, but what that did is it really opened my eyes when I did get the internship. So that's what brought me to Fishers. Was still living on the south side during the summer, but I was driving up to Fishers, and that really kind of set the trajectory for the rest of leading up to where I'm at today, to intern there. And I did 3 summers at the same company. So,
So the same place, going back.
So each summer I was doing something different, which gave me a, little bit of different viewpoint on each facet of the business. So I attribute, really that into solidifying my desire and my love for construction. And then, as I am, everybody's a different learner. Some people learn best by books. Some people learn best by doing and hands-on. The internship, in my opinion, I got the most out of it because I got to actually practice what I was learning in school.
Oh, yeah. The application of what you've been learning.
Yep. Okay. So go through the motions, go through the, understanding of, the book says it should be like this, but this is reality, right? This is how things flow. This is when conflict happens, when, those things come up, this is how you deal with it. So that was a great opportunity there. They boasted a 100% placement rate out of the construction program for the 15 prior years I was there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I came out of Purdue in 2009.
Yeah.
And there was a few things going on in the academy. I'll remember those days. And that 08, 09. So I was a little nervous. I'd put all my eggs in one basket. And fortunately, because I had done that and they knew what they were getting, I was able to start full time with them after my studies were done at Purdue.
Oh, that's cool.
So while a lot of people were struggling to find job, and I don't remember what the exact percentage of placement was, but it had dropped over 50%.
Oh, wow.
Of placement just because companies weren't hiring in the Great Recession.
So when you were there for you and they bring those 100 companies in, Were they all from Indiana, or they're
No,
in the United States?
they're from the United States. Tech companies that, in fact, when it was kind of ironic that I wasn't even interested in a lot of the other companies, I gravitated towards the company that I ended up going with. But then the other company I was looking at was in California. Okay. And they were very much into all healthcare construction. And so I started to get a little nervous because I really didn't want to leave the state. However, when I started looking at it and going, oh no, there may not be a job for me. When I had to graduate, I started really doubling down on talking with others. And so it could have been very different. Yeah. Script could have gone that I went to California and I was in, San Diego.
Yeah, it's just interesting. So, and the reason I asked that question was, coming out of school, did you know you wanted to come back here to Indianapolis?
Yeah. So I am, I've always, when I grew up, very tight knit with our family. My mom's one of 7, dad's one of 8. Most everybody is still in the Indiana area. So people have moved out, to other states, other cities, but very tight knit growing up. So I was very close with a lot of my cousins. And there's like 40 first cousins that I've got. So I knew, yet I ultimately wanted to be back where family is, just because, there's problems in any family, but when you have that many people, you can lean on each other and really help each other out.
Yeah, that's terrific. That's the reason why I asked that question was because, usually at that point you got a choice. Yep. You could decide to go somewhere else, try something new, go to a different state, but come back home. All right. So you come back home, you worked 3 summers at the same place. You find your first job, you're working here in Fishers. What are you doing? What's that first role look like? And tell me a little bit more about that.
So, it's a general contractor, construction management firm. Yeah. And so there's several different facets you can go. You could go the field route to be more a superintendent role. You can go into pre-construction on the estimating side, or you can go into more of the operations or project management side.
Okay.
I've naturally, I think, had subconsciously decided I liked the project management side the best.
Okay.
Even though I had gotten multiple opportunities.
Because you got to do kind of something in each of those areas, right? The 3 years, what you gravitated more towards the PM you have to manage. Yep. Okay.
And so I liked the aspect of coordinating, 35 to 40 subcontractors in conjunction with our superintendent who's out on the field, but then juggling all of that with 2 and 3 projects at a time. And that's what I really liked because that's what fits my personality the best.
So can you juggle too? I mean,
I wish, but
that's a lot of stuff. You talk about multiple projects and you're just coming out of school.
Yeah.
Right. But you're ready to jump in and say, I want 2, 3 projects. And you said managing 30 to 40.
Yeah. So, and I should back up a little bit because even in the project management, then you also break that down into a few additional, layers into project engineer, assistant project manager, senior project manager. So there is also a workup to doing that. So I guess right out of school saying, I'm running, this job right out of the
right there.
20. You're on the team. You're on the team. You're learning from the people that are the senior project managers or project managers, and are the ones mentoring throughout that process. And so now, it was 2009, and a lot of jobs were starting to either be put on pause, be canceled, may not ever happen. I think that also helped form my career because we still had a decent amount of work. And we still had jobs that needed to be done. Okay. And so I accelerated, I think, my career because I had to jump into situations that I probably would not in a normal market. I would have not gotten that experience so quick.
Yeah.
So that helped give me that trajectory. And unfortunately, you learn in school all the time. The professors were always saying, hey, you're worth you were being overpaid 2 to 3 times what you actually know when you graduate.
Yeah.
And companies, you're not making the company any money because you're in your learning process. You're starting to learn how to support, you're learning how to be part of the team. And until you can then spread your wings and fly on your own as a project manager running a project, you're not really making money for the company yet.
Okay.
And so that was an interesting, setup because, like I said, it accelerated things that I was doing sooner.
Yeah.
And it helped that I had already been around there for 3 years. So they do me, I do them. And it just helped us, get to it much faster.
Yeah. Ultimately, the decision to stay in the same place for 3 years worked out for you.
Right.
Because, like you said, they knew you, you knew them, understood the culture a little bit better, right? All that type of stuff.
Absolutely.
So what does your time look like there? You start, kind of in a junior role. How do you progress, and ultimately where does that take you in that role?
Yeah. So, when I left, I was there about 6.5 years full time. And, I had started out as an assistant project manager. And, I think within the next, year and a half, I had made it to a project manager role, and then ultimately went up to a senior project management role. So the difference there is, you start as you go from an assistant to project management. They asked for you to run maybe some smaller projects that were, a lot more within reach. Small build out, commercial build out of a retail store or something of that nature. And then I was still also dabbling in, heavy healthcare. So we were doing hospital additions, renovations.
Oh yeah.
For all of that, which is like the, much more difficult, much more stringent. You're dealing with people's lives in a hospital versus, a retail center that you're pretty much worried about, egress and ADA and that's about it. And everything you're good to go to life safety of airborne particles of dust in the air and all that. So two completely different extremes. However, that kept me well-rounded because what it seemed like through my career is some people would get pigeonholed into, hey, you are this type of work, you're in this type of work.
Yeah.
And I always had like a little bit of everything going on. So I had some build outs going on that I was running. And then I was also part of a larger team on larger hospitals.
Okay.
And so I liked that because I got to see multifaceted approach and apply some of those things back and forth. Could help me be better.
So 6.5 years full time, 3 years, almost 10 years you spent with this organization. Great opportunity around the city to be able to manage projects. Clearly you're liking the project management portion of your career, right? So after that 6.5 years full time, what happens next? Where do you go?
So I always had a desire and I don't know where it necessarily, where it started at, but I always had a desire to go out and start my own company, plant my own flag.
Okay.
Growing up, I was always trying to figure out, I was more gravitating toward, hey, I'm going to go work. I like things. At that time it was like, I need to work to get money to get things.
Okay.
And so, it was one of those out of a desire to put my own spin on it. Right. So I appreciate everything. I still have a great affinity for the company I worked for.
Sure, yeah.
And feel like I learned a ton from them to help apply to later on in life. But I always wanted to see, what would it look like to go out and spin up my own company.
Right.
And so, it wasn't, I thought I was a lifer at the company I was at. Right. So it was a very nerve-wracking decision. I, at that point was married or still am married, but I had gotten married and, don't know how I did it, but I convinced my wife that it was the thing to do to leave. And,
so reasonably newlywed.
Yeah.
Had been somewhere for a total of 10 years. Yes. 6.5 years full time. Good job. Good Leo lifer.
Yep.
Hey, honey, I'm thinking about hanging my own shingle and starting from zero.
Yep.
How's the conversation?
At first, I think it was a little bit of shock, just because you get comfortable.
Of course. Yeah.
But the magical thing is we did not have kids yet. So it was just the two of us. We're both working. We both have, good careers going. We had met at Purdue. And so our degrees were at work. We got doing the thing. We thought we were, living high on it. So,
what you getting? Also, you mentioned you don't have kids at that point. I know you've got kids now, so we'll get to that part of the story as well. But if you're gonna start something, it was probably the time to do it, right? This is the right time.
We had the ability to take a calculated risk and bet on myself. And so that ultimately that conversation morphed into, there was another company out of Louisville, Kentucky, that had gotten hooked up with, and it was right place, right time from what they were looking for. And so instead of going and starting my own company at that exact time when I left the original company, I decided to go that route to help in their construction department. They're a senior living development company, in construction, all in-house. And they were looking to expand from not only Louisville, but also have some presence in Indianapolis. And so it was a really nice setup to go in, work remotely for them and an office here in Indy and help them grow their construction.
Okay.
That lasted right about a year because I could not shake the desire to get out and plant my own.
Yeah, so already it was in there.
It was in there, and I'm very much like once it's in, that's what I'm doing. And so, I left at almost a year to the day, and at that point, had fired up the company and never looked back. So.
All right. So you go a year working with some folks, decide that it's time to really go plant your own flag. Is it just you? Are you a solopreneur? Do you take on a partner? And that decision, as you're starting your organization, what's going through your mind and how do you actually get started?
Looking back at it, I had no idea what I was doing. And it was just like, well, we'll pull the plug and see what happens, and it was I trust in myself to go and network with people to get, small little vestibule renovation jobs and, people that I have worked with, created relationships with, which in my opinion is the pinnacle of everything, right? You got to have the relationships. And so, I did some stuff at people's personal residence, filling in hot tubs and doing, renovations on their vestibule and building out a sports workout facility.
Okay.
And some of that, but it was all pretty low dollar, but I thought, man, I'm killing it. I'm getting some jobs doing all that.
Yep.
And in the meantime, I had reconnected with somebody I had known from the past, and he's a real estate developer here in town, and he was getting through the entitlement process on a building in downtown Indianapolis, which is the Tinker House building.
Yeah,
16th and Lewis, 16th and the Monon.
Cool build.
Yeah, it's got coffee shop and wedding facility and a distillery, and so it was and some office in it. So, while there were some small little build outs, I always credit the Tinker House development as really the first major project to do after planting a flag. So, I had partnered up at that time with that developer, and successfully turned that project over. And that was really a catalyst in that 16th and Monon area.
Sure.
Is that, there was this particular building had 6 foot tall weeds surrounding the building.
Seriously? So yeah, when you came in, it's what it looked like?
Yeah.
6 foot tall weeds around the building.
No utilities to it, no parking lot, no nothing. There's a gravel and, yeah. So to see what it's transformed into, and then now the surrounding area is even, beautiful area, and it's great to see all the investment people have put in it.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we were partnered up, and up until, so that was 2016, and then in 2019, we went our separate ways in that partnership, and I continued doing construction, which is that is my passion. That's my bread and butter. And there was just too much confusion, I think, on what are you guys? Are you a developer? Are you a contractor? And I'm a contractor through and through.
That's you are. That's what you loved it. Yep.
Yeah. And so at that point, I had rebranded that company to what is now Inherent Commercial, which brings us to current day.
Yes. So 2019 is when Inherent really gets started.
Correct.
All right. So talk to me a little bit about Inherent, what you guys are doing, those types of things. You mentioned Tinker House being, the landmark, if you will, back in 2016 to get me started. So maybe some landmark projects you worked on here recently too, but tell me more about Inherent.
Yeah. So Inherent was really born out of the idea that, we are, solely focused on construction. So that was our chance to rebrand, show everyone. I still had some employees that carried over with me from the original entity. And it was just giving everybody that fresh start of, hey, we are a commercial construction firm. If you need construction and want someone who is solely dedicated on that, we're not your competition.
Yep.
We're not your, hey, we're going to develop this with you. We want to just build the job.
Yeah, it's not confusing.
It's not confusing. And therefore clients, it was feedback from clients of like, hey, I just don't know what you guys are, like what you're doing, but I don't know how you fit in what I'm doing. And am I worried that you're competing with me and you're going to find some things out by working with me? And so it was just a little cloudy. Right. And so in Inherent, we were about 5 people when that changeover happened.
Okay.
Today we're 35 people. And, really we in the last year, I'd say we went from 20 up to the 35 with OS last year. So we've continued to see, exponential growth.
Yep.
And, I credit that to the people on our team that we've been able to assimilate here.
Yep.
And, while we don't, we have no ego to feed to be the biggest out there. We don't, if you're doing more to just say we did more on top line, but your bottom line's not growing, what point is there to grow?
Yeah, right.
And so I don't ever want to be in that situation where we have to just take projects just to take them to feed the pipeline when we may not make any money on them or it's not worth it.
Yeah, right.
And so, so we're just solely focused on, our tagline is built on relationships. It is the pinnacle of what we do. So we are out there forming relationships across the city, across the Midwest.
Yep.
And we are wanting to be the best we can be. Now, does that mean we don't make mistakes? Absolutely not.
Right. Yeah.
Every day we make mistakes. Sure, we all do. It's how do we recover from them? How do we communicate them better? And make sure that our clients feel like at the end of the project, they're like, hey, we had some problems, but you guys stood behind it. You got it done. And it's a beautiful product.
Yeah.
We always forget when you're in the minutia, the world is crumbling, right? But then when you get it done and the people that are the end users of the building, they have no idea about all the hangings and shrubberies and everything else getting there. And so that is where, at the end of the day, I always like to ask a client, how is the end user liking it?
Yep.
And when you get that, they love it. They think it's beautiful. They think it's, whatever. Now we can't take credit for the design or the beauty of it.
Yep.
But we could take the responsibility for the quality and that we stand behind it.
Well, at the end of the day, you're taking blueprints and all those thoughts and bringing it to life. Yeah. Right. And that end user now comes in and sees that finished project. That's what you guys have been doing. You mentioned your tagline was built on relationships. Love it, by the way. And so your organization now 35 people servicing clients around Indianapolis, all over the state of Indiana. How far are you traveling?
Yeah, so we've not worked out of state yet. Now, in the previous life, a bunch of us had worked with other companies out of state, so that's not something we're not familiar with.
Yep.
But I really made a concerted effort to really hone in and serve the clients here in Greater Indianapolis and in the Greater Indiana. So we'll touch all the borders. There's some pockets that we aren't, they're more predominantly a union town and we're a non-union open shop company, right? So there's some areas that you'll stay like, hey, we'll stay out of this. But yes, there's just limits to it. But really our focus is on the Midwest. So we've worked in the Indy area. We've got stuff currently in Terre Haute, a couple in Columbus, Indiana, Carmel, Shelbyville, and Fishers. There's several of them around. Sure. So we've got stuff scattered throughout. Our next push is we've got clients that are existing clients we're building for here locally, and we're looking to expand and go out of state.
Gotcha.
Now that move is probably something, surrounding us. So Ohio, Kentucky, maybe Tennessee, some, Southern Illinois. So some of that nature.
Yeah.
Of location.
So because you worked with the clients, they know how to operate with you. They know what they're going to get in the end. They want you to come. So they're kind of dragging you.
Correct.
To different places. Okay. So before we get a little bit to talk about community and the community side, obviously I want to talk a little bit about your organization also, because if you're built on relationships, you must be doing some things in the community. But before we get there, landmark projects from 2019 to today. What are some of the fun ones that people might know you guys have worked on?
Well, of course I mentioned, and this was back in 16, but Tinker House.
Yep.
Awesome. It's got provider coffee in it. Hotel Tango Distillery was in the bottom. They've, I think, since moved on to a different location. the Tinker House Event Center on the second floor, and then Black Ink IV Group on the third floor. And so that really was a nice feather in the cap. One project that I stared at, or one building I stared at, was what is known as the Polk Stables project, which is right next to Tinker House.
Yeah.
And it was owned at the time by the Indianapolis public school system. And basically it was a one of many of the buildings that they owned around the city that were predominantly storage units. And so, you've got this phenomenal 115-year-old building, brick, multi-wife brick construction, old timber inside, and it was being used to store extra items from schools, and very underutilized.
Yeah.
And so a handful of years later, it came full circle to the developer that was controlling that entity. It had gotten back to us, and we latched on and reinvigorated that building. Okay. Renovated it, added, unfortunately a third of it was so far gone, there was no saving it. But that ultimately became the Cohatch, the Polk Stables. Yeah. And so it was a labor of love from our team. Just it was a grind. We weren't going to the local lumber store and picking up 2x material to renovate that. The developers wanted to keep it period correct, so we were sourcing native, Indiana timber to replace beams and columns and keep it as period correct as we could.
Yeah.
While that building is not on a historical registry, it's definitely a big part of the city in that area.
Yeah.
So that one was a lot of fun to be involved in. And we hosted our Christmas party there last year. So it's fun to be able to go utilize a building that we have had in doing.
Yeah.
So really proud of that. And then we did a multifamily project in Broad Ripple, and it was the Red Line Flats right next to their headquarters. And so we were given an opportunity, and what we had done, had a heavy past in senior living, but hadn't really gotten into the necessarily the multifamily. And that was kind of a catalyst for us too. That was our second multifamily project. It was underground parking garage, 1-story podium, and then 4 stories of wood construction on top of it.
Yeah.
All while we were building 30 feet away from my former employer. So we were working 2 GCs on 1 building pad and having to coordinate all the way through. That was a fun project, and that was really a catalyst for kicking off what we do now, which is we haven't forgotten the smaller projects. We still do plenty of those, but the ones that people see are the multifamilies. We have a lot of multifamily construction going on, with the housing need continuing to be through the roof.
Yeah, of course.
So currently we've got about 1,260 units that are under construction all here in Indiana.
Yeah, it's so cool to hear the story and the growth over the years. Let's talk a little bit of community. So based on your story and the kind of way that you're growing and communicating with people in the community to build the business, what's community mean to you guys at Inherent? How do you build that community? You've got people working at job sites. What are some of the things you focus on when you talk about building community?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, because there's multifaceted to that as well, where we've got community internally.
Yep.
We've got to create a culture that as we attract our team, right, our team members. People say the bad E word of employees, and we look at everybody as a team member. We're no different than a football team out there. It's everybody collectively, and we do, we're only as good as our weakest link. So if we help to bring everybody up in our own internal community, and then as such, that bleeds out into the greater community, which then we look at our clients, the communities we serve. These are people that we also live around, and they're in the community that we're in as well. Not only that, in the line of work that we're in, we're building homes for people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are multifamily apartment communities, mixed use, and there may be some businesses in there, but at the end of the day, when somebody leaves work and they're coming home to a community we built,
Yeah.
we don't want it to be something that they're like, oh, my place is falling apart and my, whatever. So we take pride in that. Yeah, right. And in helping someone, that may be their first time they've ever left the house and now they're in an apartment, or, whatever that situation may be. So we're not only, helping to improve their lives. It's something that is very important to us that, if I lived here, would I want it to look like this? Right. And that's what we continue to preach with our team is extreme ownership in that and being detailed, making sure that, done means done. It's not like done, but I have 6 more things that I have to do. Yeah, it's done. Put your period on it and be done. So,
the way you answered that question was really good. And it got me thinking a little bit about the 3 different areas you talked about. You've got your employees, you've got your
team members,
right? I love that. Good correction. So my team members, just like football team. Yep. You have your community in which you're serving, right? And you have your clients. Well, one of the things you mentioned was you're building somebody's home.
Yep.
This is where they're going to come in. They're going to hang their coat up. It's where they're going to spend their time a lot of times when they're not at work, and taking pride and making sure that the job that you've done is to leave that unit, that environment in a way that you'd like to have.
Absolutely.
And so very cool to hear you talk about community, here locally and continuing to grow. Also from going from 5 or 6 people in 2019 to 35 today with growth plans going past that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So good to hear the growth of the organization. I want to talk a little bit about technology, right? So tech is everywhere. Everybody's talking about AI and all these different things. And we get a chance, here on this particular podcast to talk to businesses, for-profit, nonprofit, from all over the house, right? And so it's neat to hear how technology is helping maybe augment some areas or some things that you see in your environment or some changes you think might come in the future. So I'm just curious, when you think about technology in your business, are you leveraging some today? Or are there some things you're looking about doing or thinking about doing in the future, but just a little bit of tech with what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been a believer that, of course, I was given the opportunity early on where, as an intern, I was learning how to do things more the manual way. And sure, people that came before me were going, oh my gosh, you guys had it so easy. It just keeps getting, down the line. But we were printing off, oh my goodness, so many things. Everything was hard copy. It was set of copies of things. It was, I send 7 copies of binders to someone and they keep one and send the other 6 on and that are, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And so really what I had seen, the transition, the adoption in this construction industry is that we realized like, hey, wait a minute, there might be a better way to do this so that we don't have to kill all these trees and ship paper and binders all around to each other. Sure, when it could be centralized on a platform.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not the creator of that, but we adopted that quickly. And so we invested in Procore, which is one of the, I would say, upper, most recognized software for construction companies to utilize. Anywhere from pre-construction, bid invites, bid tabulation, any of our project management functions we need to do that coordinates with plans and RFIs and submittals and all of that.
Yeah.
So we've levered that, and it's extremely expensive software. However, it's worth its weight in gold just because it keeps everybody cohesive. Everybody's got the most up-to-date drawings at their fingertips. What I see on my computer is the same as what I see on my phone or my iPad. So we're well armed when it comes to that. The other evolution of that now is how can we lever the different, buzzwords of AI. Everybody's talking AI this, AI that. And while you can't go and replace someone swinging a hammer or putting together a steel member on a job site or building a block wall, I mean, some things are being developed and some things naturally, like there's going to be assistance from, some sort of artificial intelligence, whatever it might be. But it is getting to the point where it can help us on a management. When you go look at a project that's 300 drawings, 300 sheets, and then you've got a specification manual sitting next to it that's 800 sheets.
Yeah.
How do we effectively and efficiently get through all of that information in a digestible form?
Sure. Right.
And so we're constantly trying to look at and stay on the edge of, hey, this is coming, these programs. Now we can't be, you can't always just jump to the next thing, right? So we always try to say, hey, no idea is a bad idea, but we may not adopt it, or we may modify it in some way, or use what we, because we don't want to change that for our team members all the time. Some of it's changing so fast and so quickly, like you just can't.
Yeah.
If you try to do that, like I'd be doing nothing but implementing new stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And so what we really want to do is focus it on where can we, it's not going to replace people, but how can it bolster what they're doing? How can I make them even better? Because the human error is, I've skimmed over this and I didn't read that. Well, AI's reading it and AI is compiling it. Now, is it to the point yet where it's foolproof? No. So I always caution everybody that, hey, just because it spits something out, you still have to do fact check. You still have to dress it out.
Yeah.
And so we're adopting that. We do a lot of drone work on our projects because they're massive sites. So you have stuff that's 10, 15, 30 acres. It's hard to really grasp that from the ground level. So we utilize a company that is coming in. They fly their drone and put it into a program called Drone Deploy. Okay. And then in Drone Deploy, then we have mapping ability. So we can look at, here was the initial grade, here's where we're at now. Compare those. Tell me how much dirt has moved, how many tens of thousands of cubic yards.
Oh, wow.
What is this pile that is sitting of dirt in the corner of our job? How many thousands of cubic yards of dirt are sitting there?
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to just look at a pile and say, yeah, that's that.
Right.
But if you break it down into a virtual model that has data points and can compare all that, well, we've got 17,000 cubic yards sitting over here in this pile. And, give or take a few yards, right? But by and large, it's telling us information that otherwise you'd be calling a surveying crew out and have them go shoot different points and then, do a big calculation. And now it could be instant. So we're utilizing that stuff. And then that's the drone deployed aerial. And then they have drone deployed ground. So if we walk into a space and we're going to look at a renovation of this office here, and you go do the walkthrough and you invite some people like subcontractors, maybe not everybody can make it to the physical walkthrough. So we go and we use a 360 camera in conjunction with the drone deploy ground software.
Yeah.
And in 2 seconds, you can snap the 360 photo in each room, and you can do it that way. You can do like a walk and just walk, and it'll capture your walk. And so then when you get back behind your computer and you say, hey, what was I looking at? Forget what was there. You can pull up that room, you can pan it around, go up, down, look around, all fast.
It's like you were there.
Just like we were, So then we can also utilize that. If somebody didn't make it to the walkthrough, we can send it to them and say, hey, here's your virtual walkthrough.
Yep.
So that's just a couple ways that we're trying to harness that, and always looking for more.
Yeah, there always will be new technology. It's really interesting to hear, though, just how you've evolved from 2019 till today and where it's going to go. Nobody really knows exactly where that'll end up being, but it sounds like you've embraced a lot of those things already and looking for the next thing when it comes to tech. So very interesting. So before we get to a little bit of fun and those types of things, I know you're a family guy. So you mentioned when you started your company was just you and your wife.
Yep.
And so, but now you've got a couple of kids.
Yeah. We got 2 kids, 2 boys.
Okay.
They are about to be 7 and 9.
Okay.
So we got our hands full with that, being in 1st and 3rd grade.
Yep.
And it's really fun that, when I was growing up, I remember tagging along with my dad to do things and all that. And now I have that with my boys. So the weekend rolls around and we've got some things to do, but then I'm like, hey, let's go stop by a job site, because I don't necessarily always have the time during the week, because I'm pulled into a bunch of meetings to go and just walk a job without rushing through it. And so, it's really fun, because then they're going, what's this? What's that? What's it? And so, it's pretty cool to see that. And then when they come around the office and they know the team members and all of that, it's come full circle.
It's so much fun. And it's always cool to hear how you're incorporating your kiddos into the workspace and giving them an opportunity to get excited to know what dad's doing that.
And then also, to bring the family aspect to it. So my wife, she CPA by trade. I was working for a local firm here, and fantastic company. And, but we got to the point where, we had the kids, the business is getting bigger. There's a need for the financial aspect of it, the accounting finance side. Yeah. So Shinjunked about 5 years ago and came over to the company, which of course was a little nerve-wracking. And people still ask me today, like, how is it working with your wife? And I think I would, and she would also say that it's actually been better for us because we're rowing in the same boat versus us both trying to row separate boats, trying to, achieve career goals and all of that. So I credit her a lot because, her goal in life was never to start or be a main player of a construction firm. Yep. And so, but she's been able to bring her skill set, still a licensed CPA, keeps all that licensing up. And yeah, and so we're able to lever, on that a lot. And then, but we still use her old firm for our, end of year review and all of that stuff. So it's kind of fun, full circle moment. Yeah, of course. And so it's truly a family company.
It truly is.
Yeah, and it does. Yeah, absolutely. We don't ride together to the office, but but we're together all the time. Or we're, working on a common goal. Oh, sure. Of, doing this for our family.
It's good to hear. Truly a family business, right? And how you're building the culture. It's great to pull that back full circle to talk about their family, their significant others, those types of things. And I'm assuming it's because you realize that your wife's in charge. You're going to clearly have to have a boss. Somebody has to be running the show. Everybody's got a boss. Everybody's got boss. And so that's clearly good to hear.
Yeah.
And so, it's just as we finish up a little bit, let's talk about fun.
Yeah.
Right. So 7 and 9-year-old boys, what does fun look like for the family? And then maybe like if it's just you and your wife, what's fun for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the family, it's the boys so far have not been, they didn't beeline to, sports. I think the older they get, the more they're showing interest in it. But like my oldest is nervous to play in front of people. So he loves soccer, plays it all the time, always out kicking the ball, soccer this, soccer that, but he doesn't want to play on a team because he doesn't like being in front of people. So we're just trying to embrace that of, sure, hey, what can you do to still fulfill this and feel fulfilled at that, and being that you're only 9. So things will come. You'll figure it out. Sure. He's also doing music lessons. So he does drum lessons every week. And so that's extremely loud when Yellie's at the house, but yeah, he's getting pretty good. So it's really fun to watch that. And as long as they have something to do to challenge themselves. Yeah. My youngest is starting to get into the sports. He played soccer, and then now he wants to play baseball. So this is going to be his first year of baseball. Okay. And so that'll be interesting because it's probably one of my least favorite sports, but we're going to support him because that's what he wants to do. Sure. And so that's fun, from that aspect. And then of course, we kind of eat, breathe, and sleep work, right? So we try to make it fun as well, so that kids aren't just always like, oh, it's always work, but like some of the fun is they're like begging me to go to a job site. Yeah, I want to go see it. Sure. Hey, remember that job site that had X, Y, and Z? Like, let's go look at it, and so we'll run around and do that on the weekend, and that's a lot of fun. Plus it gives mom some time to be we'll get our head cleared and all that. If it is, and we've started including our kids in this, but if it's fun for my wife and I, it's a lot of music. We like concerts. So of course we hit up a lot of concerts here in the local indie area. And then, it seems like once a year or twice a year, we travel different places to go see concerts.
So what kind of music? What's the favorite?
So we're big Dave Matthews fans. So we go and travel for some of that. Traveled, of course, a lot more before kids.
Yeah.
That has changed, but we're making a big trek out to Washington this year, to the Gorge that they play on Labor Day, 3 days in a row out there. So we're doing that. But then, last year, I think we saw Counting Crows at White River, or whatever that is now. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Downtown and Everwise. There we go. And then we took both boys to that. And just this, couple weeks ago, my wife said to my 9-year-old, like, what do you want to do this summer? And he's like, go to Dave Matthews shows. So I was like, yeah, Jesus, we've done something right easy. And he went to his first show last year with us. And so that was to his first Dave Matthews show. And so that was pretty cool, just to kind of come full circle. The young one didn't want to go with us. And so, So that was a lot of fun. And then, we like to travel too. So we'll head down to Florida a few times in the year. And so we're trying to branch out from that as well, not always go into the same spots. So starting to look at Michigan and some other places that, are readily available. So, yeah, good for you. It's hard to have hobbies when you're, running a business and that takes precedence, but we have to remember to also still have fun and live our life too.
Yeah, the same thing you tell your teammates, take care of your family. You've got to take care of your family too.
Yep.
I'm sure that your family's 35 individuals. Right. And so you're taking care of a lot of families. Greg, thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent story. Great business. Thanks for your story. I appreciate you being on with me.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was fun.